We got rid of the turtles. Now it's easy. It was the turtles. They were the work. They were the work. We think they're living a better life. We're going to go with that. I actually have written 4 novels, and the 4th is If You Lived Here, You'd Be Home Now, which just came out in September. It's the 3rd from the 5-spot imprint, which did Knitting Under the Influence and The Smart One and the Pretty One, and I found a very happy home there. Love my editor, and they're incredibly supportive, so that's been really great. And Growing Up on the Spectrum is actually out. It's been out for a while, and it's the really cool thing. When I wrote Overcoming Autism, I co-wrote it with a woman who runs an autism clinic in Santa Barbara, who had seen my oldest son who has autism, and she and I wrote it together, and she gave the clinicians advice and I gave the parenting advice, which sometimes were in conflict, which was the fun of being able to write it together. And with Growing Up on the Spectrum, my son wrote some essays, so you still have the clinician, you still have the parent, and you have the teenager who's lived with it. So that's a very special book to me. But I'm here to talk about fiction, which is what I love. And all the talk about belts and such and sartorial elegance reminds me of a story that ties into this book. My oldest son, because he had autism, sort of took his own path through school, but we had our other 3 kids go to a West Side private school. And the very first meeting my son was in kindergarten. It was the very first meeting I had gone to. I thought, I'm going to belong to this community. I'm going to be part of it. I'm going to show up for meetings and join committees and all that. So I show up. It's 8 in the morning. I've somehow managed to get the 4 kids either ready for school or tucked away somewhere, whatever. I'm so proud of myself because I've taken a shower. I mean, you can tell because my hair is soaking wet, but I don't smell, and I have these torn jeans on, and I have a top that hasn't been spat up on. So I think I'm doing great. And I walk into the meeting, and the women running the meeting are wearing, gorgeously tailored wool pants. I mean, you see where this is going. Their hair has been blown perfectly dry, and their makeup is immaculate. And I just walked in and thought, I will never fit in here. I might as well just go now. And it's sort of been a journey, and I also, and I don't know if any of you share this experience, I had the experience of always sort of having the weird kid in the class. Not my daughter so much, but my 3 boys, starting with the one on the spectrum, and actually going down to the other 2 who are not on the spectrum. They're a little dreamy, they're not very sporty, they're Ferdinand the Bull, if you guys have read that book. They're all Ferdinands. I'm raising a whole herd of Ferdinands. But we've made our way, and in fact have been very happy in this school and this community, carving our own path. So all of that feeds into If You Lived Here, You'd Be Home Now. The protagonist is a little different from me because she had her son when she was only 19. It's a choice that's explained in the book, but at any rate, she went off to her freshman year of college, thought, done with home, I'm free, I'm out, then decided to have this baby with her boyfriend, who then left her. So at the end of her freshman year, she comes back home to her parents, moves in with them, has the baby, and her parents are helping her now raise the kid and sending him to the same West Side private school that she herself went to. So she's sort of seeing her son go through the school that she was in, but she is now so much not part of the mainstream. She's this sort of tattooed, slightly punky, very, very young woman with a little bit of a chip on her shoulder toward the world. And her son he's a Ferdinand. He's dreamy, he's a little out of it, he's not really connected to the other boys in the class. And the 2 of them together sort of just want to live in their own world. But a couple of people step in to start pulling them out into the real world, into the community, and opening them up to the fact that even when people seem really different from you, you can make a connection, and they're often a lot nicer than you think. So one of them is the PE coach, because her son is Ferdinand. He's not doing great in PE, and he comes home one day and just says, I hate PE, it's miserable. And she goes in to talk to the coach, and the principal basically saying, can't my kid just not be in PE? And the coach sort of says, that would be the worst thing you can do for the kid, but let me help him. And he starts helping her son. And along the way, she finds herself interested in the coach, who has a girlfriend. But he really reaches in and says, I'm going to help. I'm going to make him part of this mainstream. And her half-sister, Melanie, and I'm explaining all this because the part I'm reading is a little bit more toward the middle of the book, which I know makes it a little more confusing, but it's also a really fun section. Her half-sister is also staying at home part of the time with her parents because she and her husband are getting divorced and they wanted their kids to stay in their house. So they're taking turns moving in and out of the house. So when her sister's not staying with her kids, she's staying with them, which I've heard of quite a few people doing now. It's nice not to uproot the kids, I guess. So her sister says, we're going to become part of this world. You and I are going to join a committee, because her kids are at the same school. We are going to join a committee. We're going to be part of this committee. So they join a hospitality committee. And she starts meeting these West Side moms she's always turned her nose up at, sort of in the assumption that they're going to turn their nose up at her. And what she finds is, as I said, you can sometimes make a connection. And one really important point about this book is, years ago in my son's toddler class, the leader of it said something so brilliant that I've never forgotten it. She said, separation is never a nice process. She said, kids don't separate from their parents by turning to them and saying, I'd like a little more independence now. Do you mind if I do this by myself? They separate by getting angry, by showing some anger, by saying, no, I'll do it myself, by saying, leave me alone, all these things. And what I realized is it's true when your kid is 2, and it's true when your kid's 6, and it's true when your kid's 13, and it's true when your kid's 25, like the character in this book, who is living with her parents, who have been nothing but good to her, but who really needs to separate. So sometimes it comes out a little dark. So in this section that I'm about to read, the coach has come over. His name is Andrew. He's come over to play with her son Noah for the first time because he's offering to help teach him some sports skills, some athletic skills, so that in PE or on any team, he can be really, right in there with all the other kids. So he's come to their house on a Sunday morning to help her son. I glanced out the window every now and then to see how it was going. They looked like they were having fun. Andrew pitched balls to Noah, who would either catch them or hit them with a bat. The game varied from time to time. Every once in a while, he would hurl himself at Andrew, who would grab him and spin him around. You could hear Noah's shrieks of laughter even through the closed window. Melanie and Mom came home while they were still outside. What's going on out there, Mom asked, looking out the kitchen window. Who's that guy? Okay, wait, I have to, tell you one more thing. Her son, part of the reason her son's a little bit different and not as strong as the other kids is he has something called celiac disease, which is important. Do you all know that, where you can't eat gluten? Yeah. My second oldest son has celiac disease, so I'm speaking with a certain amount of knowledge. You'll see it's relevant. I had finished frosting the cupcakes and was passing the time instant messaging a couple of friends on my laptop. I wrote a quick GTG to them both, closed the computer, and explained how Andrew had come to be at our house. It was his idea, but Noah may refuse to let him come again. I think you should insist on it, Mom said. This is just what he needs, and I'm happy to pay for it. Her enthusiasm made me wonder how awful an athlete she thought Noah was. I said, actually, Andrew's not charging us for this. He said just to bake him cupcakes. She frowned. That's not right. He should be paid for his services. He said he didn't want us to pay him. I'll talk to him. No, don't, I said. Stay out of it. She briefly pressed her lips together, annoyed. You should have insisted on it right from the start. I did, I said. That's what you don't understand. I did insist, and he said no. So get off my back about it, okay? He's a grown man. No one's making him do this. My mother made an irritable noise and left the room. Melanie was looking at me. What? I growled. Can't you be a little more patient with her? Oh, for God's sake, I said, and reopened my laptop to let her know that the discussion was over. The boys came in a few minutes later, and I stood up to greet them. You all done? Water break, Andrew said, but we probably won't go on too much longer. I'm really tired, Noah said, but he looked happy. Anyone want a cupcake, I asked? They're all frosted now. Those look great, Andrew said. He and Noah each grabbed one. Melanie had left the kitchen earlier, but now she came running back in to greet Andrew. She welcomed him with an enthusiastic hug. I wondered if that's what mothers are supposed to do. Give the PE coach a hug when they saw him away from school. That seemed weird to me. I tried to imagine giving Andrew a casual hug, and the thought made me squirm. I wish Nicole and Cameron were here to see you. Those are her kids, Mel told him. They'd be so excited. You should have them come next time, he said. I could use more kids. Really? It wouldn't be more work for you? It would be great. We could play a lot more games. He carefully peeled the paper liner off the cupcake. Actually, he said to me, I meant to tell you to invite some of Noah's friends to join us for just that reason. I checked to make sure Noah wasn't listening. He had wandered over to the corner of the room where he was idly leaning against Eleanor Roosevelt. That's their yellow lab.